Impossible Fallout is the 6th film in the 22-year-old franchise, and it is a direct sequel to 2015's Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, when before it's too late. So this movie contains a couple of firsts for the franchise. First off, it is the first time that they have ever done a direct sequel to the previous film. The other movies in this franchise are standalone stories with relational connections to the previous films. This movie is a direct sequel to the story of 2015's Rogue Nation, so I would highly recommend that you rewatch Rogue Nation before you watch this film. The second first in this movie is it's the first time that a director has returned to do a second movie in the franchise. Chris McQuarrie directed Rogue Nation, and he's come back to direct this film as well because it is a direct sequel to his other film, Rogue Nation. But before I give my thoughts on the movie, if you love to talk movies so much so that your friends think you talk too much about movies, go ahead and join us down in the comment section. We would love to talk movies with you all day long. Tell us your thoughts on this movie as well as the franchise in general. With that said, let's get started talking about the good. What I love about this film is the world building. So we're at the 6th film in this franchise, and what it wisely does to distinguish itself from the previous 5 films is try and tie the world together of this franchise. And what I mean by that is we start to understand how does the CIA work with it more so than any of the other movies ties back to previous films. There's some direct relational ties to the first film and to the 6th film. And that just makes us feel like this is a bigger world, not just these kind of cool standalone stories, but a world that's being inhabited by these characters. Along those same lines, it continues the themes from the previous film about the consequences of actions. And in doing so, we start to dig a lot deeper into Ethan Hunt's character. Instead of him just being seen as kind of like this unstoppable action hero, this movie dives into his psyche and the consequences of everything that he's gone through in the previous films. It takes a toll on him, and we start to get little pictures of what that looks like. Another thing the movie does well is it gives us a very clear story. We know exactly what Ethan is trying to get the warheads and what the consequences are if he doesn't get to them in time. This also gives a sense of urgency and tension throughout the entire film. And what gives the movie complexity is the different characters and their motives, and we're not always sure what everyone is trying to do in each scenario and who is betraying who in each situation. So while the basic story is fairly straightforward, it has a lot of nuance to it because of the interesting characters that populate the film. Speaking of interesting characters, this movie has an amazing cast. Now, we know the returning cast are great in these roles and have amazing chemistry with one another, but we add some new favorites into the mix with Angela Bassett as kind of this higher up in the government who's not necessarily on the side of the IMF and who sends along an operative, Henry Cavill, to kind of try and watch over the team and make sure these nukes are returned no matter what. And Cavill just makes for... it's an interesting role for him. He's playing against his usual type where he's playing the charming lead. Here he's kind of, while he's on the team, he's antagonistic towards the team. And it just makes for an interesting, fun kind of tension and dynamic to see him in a different type of role. He also has an amazing mustache in this movie that had dire consequences for the movie Justice League. I tried to do my own little Henry Cavill mustache, but I forgot to grow it out starting a week ago, so I didn't really pull it off as well as I would like to. But he pulls off the physicality, like you feel him as a physical presence in the room, and he plays against kind of like the jokey humor of Simon Pegg and, you know, the Tom Cruise grin and everything like that. So he's just an interesting new dynamic to add into the mix here. Also, the villain from Rogue Nation returns in this film. I'd been critical of him in Rogue Nation because I thought the character just seemed off visually, the way they made him look. I just didn't make him feel scary and intimidating to me. And that's different in this film. He just has a different look because of where he's at in life and what's happened since the previous film. And he fits the role much better in this film and gives off the right vibe and menacing ambiance around him. Once again, the action here is great. Whether you're talking about motorcycle chases through crowded, traffic-filled European cities or helicopter chases with Tom Cruise dangling underneath the helicopter. As usual for this franchise, the action sequences are memorable, they're iconic, they're exciting, and they're just shot so well. Like in this movie, there's kind of an infamous stunt in the movie where Tom Cruise got injured and the film was delayed for a couple of months. And they showed kind of the shots of it in some of the trailers a little bit. And there'd been some leaks of the footage on like TMZ and stuff like that. The shot in the movie is awesome. I mean, just so well choreographed. And if you kind of know the history of the accident and everything like that, you know when it's coming. And it's great. And for a franchise that's had quite a few great hand-to-hand fight sequences, the bathroom fight in this one might be the best hand-to-hand fight scene inside of the franchise. And one final positive, while the movie has all the action that the films are known for, it also has all the spy trickery that the TV show is known for, with the masks, the disguises, the sets, all the fun spy stuff where they're just kind of messing with people's heads. It's got all the stuff that Mission Impossible is known for. From there, we will move on to the bad. And the big negative on this film is there's just a lot of things about the film that were very predictable. And for me, I rewatched all the films in the franchise over the last month. And so maybe I've just got a lot of Mission Impossible on the mind. I'm thinking very Mission Impossible-esque, but every single time there was a moment in the movie where there was a bit of a reveal where the audience went, oh, a little bit, I saw it coming at the very beginning of the scene. I knew what was about to happen every single time they tried to pull a trick on the audience. I could see it coming. This is both true of individual sequences as well as the story overall. Also with the film, I feel like it's almost victim of our expectations of the franchise. And what I mean by that is that several of the last films have had so many of these iconic stunts that the level of expectation has gotten a little bit too high. So going back to that Dubai sequence where Tom Cruise was dangling on the outside of a building, and then they followed that up with Tom Cruise is dangling from a plane as it takes off, that sets the level of expectation so high that there's not really anything you can do to top it at that point in time. So while the helicopter sequence and the building jump are great action sequences that are very well shot, it doesn't feel like they top what came before. It feels like they were trying to do something to top it, but it doesn't quite work. And you know, by this point in time, when you've had him on the outside of the plane and you've had him on the tallest building, there's not much you really can do because you can't exactly do a Tom Cruise space jump in Mission Impossible 7. So that's why I say that the film feels like a victim of our expectations for it. From there, I got one more negative, and the third act feels like it was dragged out a little bit too long. There's a time element that plays into the mix, and it seemed like they were repeating some shots in some elements for the sake of filling up the amount of time that needed to pass. But overall, this is a great, exciting addition to this franchise. Overall, if I were to rate this one, I would give it a solid A. This is what I wanted out of this movie. It's delivering what this genre is supposed to deliver, and on an entertainment level, I would go with a 9 out of 10. This is a great spy film, it is a great action film, and it does a great job of tying this franchise together. There's not a lot of times where you get to the 6th film in a franchise and it's one of the best, and that's impressive with this franchise that's kind of been firing on all cylinders for about 10 years now. So that's my take on the movie. How about you? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did it live up to the hype, or did it disappoint you a little bit? I would love to hear your take on this one. Also, I reviewed all the movies in this franchise. You can check that out right up here. Light the fuse. That's not good. I like this shirt, and I just set it on fire.